Let's dive right into today's explainer, where we're unpacking the actual mechanics of the unseen world. If you've ever wondered how the spiritual realm functions, not just as some vague mystical concept, but as a structured system, you're going to find this incredibly fascinating. We're looking at ideas that literally bridge the gap between physical science and spiritual dimensions. We're pulling our insights directly from Ryuho Okawa's thought-provoking book, New Exploration of the Mind. This text gives us a very specific, unique perspective on human consciousness. Instead of just asking for blind faith, the author lays out a structured, almost physical framework for understanding exactly how the soul and the universe operate. Specifically, we're zeroing in on Chapter 8 today, which completely breaks down the multidimensional stages of the mind. The concepts here take those traditional, kind of fuzzy notions of the afterlife and replace them with a highly organized system that's based entirely on energy and vibration. Here is our roadmap for the explainer. 1. Dimensions of the mind. 2. Water's 3 states analogy. 3. Boiling point and higher realms. 4. Managing our daily worries. And 5. What occupies your mind? Okay, starting with Section 1, Dimensions of the Mind, the unseen structure of our spiritual reality. So what do these spiritual dimensions actually look like? Well, the text makes a crucial point right off the bat. The 4th through 9th dimensions, they aren't separated by physical floors. It's not like you're taking an elevator up some massive cosmic skyscraper. Instead, these realms are defined entirely by the distinct frequency of our mental vibrations. For instance, the 4th dimension is where spirits first arrive after leaving the physical body. It holds both the lower realms and the beginnings of spiritual awakening. As your mental vibrations rise, you reach the 5th dimension, which is categorized by a deep understanding of goodness. Then bump it up to the 6th dimension, a divine realm of self-creation and really polishing the soul. Finally, the 7th dimension shifts outward into a realm of guiding others and pure altruism. It's an entire spectrum based strictly on your spiritual frequency.
Moving on to Section 2, Water's 3 states analogy, translating invisible realms into physical science.
To really wrap our heads around these invisible realms, the source uses this brilliant everyday metaphor. Just think about water. In the same way water changes from solid ice to liquid to gas based on heat, a soul ascends through these dimensions based on its spiritual energy. The solid ice, that represents our dense, heavy physical body in the material world. When we add spiritual heat, it melts into liquid water, representing the spirit realms from the 4th all the way up to the 7th dimension. And with intense, massive heat, it turns into steam, symbolizing the absolute highest, formless realms. Now, let's zoom in on that very first major shift. The crucial point here is the melting point, 0 degrees Celsius. In this framework, this actually represents the exact moment of physical death. At 0 degrees, the physical body reaches its end, much like a solid block of ice just melting away. But the core energy, the soul itself, absolutely does not vanish. It merely changes states. It continues flowing on as water, naturally entering the spiritual dimensions. Let's look at Section 3, Boiling Point and Higher Realms, Becoming Boundless Energy. Okay, so what happens when a soul really starts to turn up the heat? Well, as a soul's light energy increases, it literally warms up. The text uses a great everyday analogy here. Imagine water heated to somewhere between 50 and 70 degrees Celsius. It's like slipping into a warm, comforting bath or taking a sip of a perfectly steeped cup of hot tea. It naturally generates feelings of warmth, gratitude, and deep happiness. This perfectly mirrors the spiritual state of the 6th dimension. It's a realm of positive self-creation where the soul just feels this profound sense of inner peace and thankfulness. But here's where things get wild. When we hit 100 degrees, the boiling point, a massive, explosive transformation occurs. We aren't just getting warmer anymore. This is a complete paradigm shift. At that boiling point, water forcefully bubbles and bursts into steam. Spiritually, the soul ceases to have a standard, defined spiritual body and instead becomes this vast cosmic energy. The text points out that water expanding into steam increases its volume hundreds, even thousands of times. This mirrors the soul entering the 8th dimension known as the Tathagata realm. Up here, the spirit is no longer confined to a single individual persona. It becomes an immense, formless, radiating energy that can influence the universe on a massive scale. It is a phenomenal way to visualize true enlightenment. Now, this entire grand physics lesson brings us to a really personal pivot. If the dimensions aren't just places you travel to, but actual states of energy that you generate, it begs a pretty important question. What exactly is your spiritual temperature right now? Which brings us to Section 4, Managing Our Daily Worries, the universal human condition. Let's bring this high-level theory right back down to earth. The text is incredibly realistic about the human condition, pointing out that practically no one on earth is totally free from worry. Our minds are constantly, endlessly active. Without proper management, they literally behave like wild, restless horses. I mean, think about it. We spend our morning commute obsessing over things we messed up in the past. We agonizingly weigh every single present choice, and we harbor all these deep anxieties about the future. If we just let our minds run on autopilot like that, it ultimately breeds a deep sense of emptiness and keeps our spiritual temperature hovering right around freezing. To keep ourselves from staying spiritually frozen, the text lays out a clear strategy. We have to step up and become active managers of our inner world. First off, you just have to recognize the simple fact that your mind is constantly distracted. Second, you have to honestly acknowledge those toxic habits of clinging to past regrets and fearing future unknowns. And finally, you have to step in as the actual trainer of your own mind. By actively regulating your thoughts, steering them away from anger and anxiety and toward constructive, positive reflection, you actively generate that spiritual heat. You are literally raising your own vibration. And finally, Section 5. What occupies your mind? Actions speak louder than spiritual claims. So how do we actually measure our true spiritual progress? Well, the text highlights a really sharp truth regarding the gap between our ego and reality. It notes that regardless of what individuals claim about their spiritual status, even prominent religious leaders who mistakenly believe they're out there saving humanity, the truth is found entirely in their actions. Someone might subjectively perceive themselves as a high-level savior residing up in the 8th dimension, but if their objective, daily physical actions involve spewing anger, swearing, tearing people down, or acting destructively, that immediately reveals their true underlying mental frequency. It's a lower vibration. In this physics of spirituality, you literally cannot fake your temperature. Your actions are the thermometer. I'm going to leave you with this final, truly powerful realization from the text. Your dimension isn't some far-off future destination you reach after you die. It is exactly what you're choosing to think about today. Are your thoughts frozen in regret? Are they warming up with gratitude? Or are they expanding into boundless compassion? The spiritual world isn't out there. It's right inside your head. So if your actions are the thermometer, what temperature are you broadcasting to the universe right now?